Hey, what up, guys? In this one, we're headed to Santa Teresa, and we're answering the question, how much did one length change my swing, and how hard is it to go back to variable length clubs? So this past couple of videos, I've been trying to game my Wilsons again, just to see, if I can go back to them and kind of experience, getting into the clubs that I originally bought that were fitted for me. That being said, let's head out the course, see how I did. All right, Santa Teresa hole number one. Driver didn't go all that far off the first tee, just trying to warm up here. End up in the center of the fairway, so can't complain. I have about 6-iron here for 170 yards. End up pulling that and then drawing it, so not a great combination. I have a lot of tree in the way, so I just want to kind of nestle up as close as possible. So I take my 9-iron with the bump and run and follow that up with another bump and run. So yes, the bump run is here to stay. I really love, this shot, and I think it helps me out quite a bit. Have a really manageable one here for my bogey, but unfortunately end up just missing that one. So end up tapping in for double on the first hole. So one thing that I've noticed switching back to variable length is that, I end up missing things a lot more to the left on the longer clubs. And yeah, just the accuracy and the consistency isn't quite there. This is just a layup 7-iron, goes up on the right hand side, so no issues there. And then yeah, going to this wedge here, something that I would normally take a 1-length gap wedge, end up hitting it a little bit long here, but no complaints. I'm putting for birdie. Yeah, I just end up hitting that one a little offline, a little short on the low side, so tap in for a par here. All right, this next hole is fairly short, so just taking out the super hybrid and just putting something in the middle of the fairway. Leaves me a quite short shot for my next approach. Take out the 9-iron here, and yeah, end up missing this one to the left and a little bit short. So I'm in the sand trap. Everyone else hit terrible tee shots, and they were further out than me, but they were on the green and I wasn't. Hit a really good sand shot here and had a really close one. So I end up just tapping that in for par. So sandy par, loving it. Going par after a rough start. All right, coming up next is another par 4 that's pretty straightforward, but unfortunately I end up pulling my tee shot to the left. That being said, the second shot, I just end up hitting a iron under the trees, let it roll all the way up there as close as possible. And so unfortunately I duffed this chip, end up being quite short there. This next shot, end up rolling the ball pretty close to the hole, and I'm just tapping that in for bogey. So recovered after a duff chip, gotta love that. So I guess on my iron finding journey, I guess my last question would be, is it the gauge improvement aspect of my Olamar's 1-lengths, or is it really the 1-length methodology that helps me with my irons? Still trying to figure that out, but hey, hit my second shot onto the green, and then James is in the way. Don't end up converting this, end up tapping in for bogey. But pretty much, yeah, the main question here is, 1-length, is it the clubs that I got, which are super game improvement? Is that what's helping me the most, or is it actually 1-length themselves? So you'll see where I'm going here with the Wilsons, at least not end up not being the clubs for me, but that's kind of where I'm at right now. Hit a pretty good drive on this hole and actually hit a pretty decent iron into the green. So I'm sitting actually pretty on this difficult hole, and I have a decent length one for birdie. So here's the birdie attempt, and I rolled it, maybe 5 feet by, 4 feet by, and frustratingly cannot convert it. So yeah, expressing a little bit of frustration through my body language, but end up tapping in for bogey. All right, so you see full length iron here, a 6-iron, end up pull drawing this one to the left of my target. So just going for the center of the green, and I couldn't hit it straight. That being said, I end up hitting a pretty decent chip here. The green was sloping away from me, so just try to keep it as close as possible to the pin. And then I have a lengthy one for my par putt. End up draining it, so 5 over at this point. All right, so if you're an OG watcher of the channel, you know that originally when I played Santa Teresa, I blew this hole up. And unfortunately, I'm going to blow this hole up once again. So this shot looks pretty, harmless, but I end up hitting this tree, and it ends up going directly left and, dropping right down into these bushes. So oh no! I end up chunking this punch out shot, and then, yeah, just advancing this ball up towards the green. Pretty frustrated at this point, and so here's my chip. And yeah, chip turns out just being okay. It's a little bit short, and then here is the putt. And yeah, I don't convert that either. So yeah, blew this up again. Got a triple bogey here. One better than last time. Last time I got a quadruple. All right, so taking some frustration out on this hole. Hit a pretty good drive here in the center of the fairway. So I'm leaving myself with a normal 7-iron length shot into the green. And yeah, actually I hit this one pretty decent. So 7-iron, 8-iron, 9-iron pitching wedge with the variable length. Still okay, but it's anything that's stronger than a 7-iron, I have troubles. This one ends up being a terrible first putt. Not looking great. And so here's my next putt. Yeah, I end up missing that. So on regulation, 3-putt, typical for me. Got a bogey here. All right, 9 over on the front. Just going to swing out my butt here with the wind behind me. Hit a really good drive down the center of the fairway. Just take out my 56 degree. Try to hit as hard as possible with the wind and let it carry a little extra. End up turning out pretty good. And this is a pretty sloped green. I'm actually pretty happy with this putt. End up just tapping that one in for my par. So starting off the back 9 with a par feels pretty good. All right, this next hole is interesting. Got to play like a 200-yard shot, and then it doglegs 90 degrees to the right uphill. And so I just take out my super hybrid, try to advance it as far as possible safely, which I end up doing. And then I just have a simple wedge into the green. End up chunking this one. So this is not a variable length or one length discussion. This is more like just learn how to hit greens better. End up hitting a pretty good chip. Just needed a few more feet to roll in. Here's my par attempt. Oh no! And yeah, I end up just missing that one to the left. So tap that in for a bogey. All right, coming up next, it's a pretty cool hole, severely downhill shot. So end up taking my super hybrid and hitting it like 240 yards, even though it's normally I hit it 215 tops. Next, I take my pitching wedge, flare this one out right for a change, which is, different than what I've been experiencing this whole time with variable length clubs. And then, yeah, pretty much hit a pretty decent putt to where I almost made that long birdie, and then I just tap in for par. So the back 9 of Santa Teresa is pretty windy on the open holes. So this one's playing into wind. Had to hit it pretty hard. There's a ton of room on the left-hand side of this fairway. It's all like chopped down grass, so end up being okay here. And yeah, I end up taking a 7-iron. End up just chunking it and being short of the green, so taking out the bump and run here. And yeah, didn't have the greatest result there. Left it pretty short, so I have a long one here just for my par. So here's the par attempt. And yeah, just pushed it the whole way. Was never going in. End up tapping in for a bogey here. Coming up next is a pretty difficult par 3 into wind. I end up taking my Wilson 3-iron utility club, and yeah, it actually ends up going onto the green, but I only hit it 160 yards, which is a club that I usually hit almost 200. So that's how windy it was. Plus, I didn't hit it that great. Didn't hit a great putt there, and so I have this one for my par. And yeah, as you can hear, I don't know if you could hear that, but not happy at all. All right, coming up next, some frustration setting in, so I try to swing really hard. End up pulling this one to the left with a little bit of a hook, and so now I have to hit this recovery shot under this tree to try to get close to the green. End up pulling off a decent shot here. So here's the chip, and yeah, landed nice and soft, almost goes in, but now I have a testy one just for my par. So here's the par attempt, and nope, I end up not making that. So yeah, body language not the best here, apologies, but yeah, shouldn't let that get to me. All right, next up in this par 3, as you can see, 6-iron, everything's left with the variable length, but end up hitting this trap, but it rolls out, I don't know how, into the middle of the fairway. So end up chipping this one and pretty far away. TJ's blocking me here, but yeah, leave this one short. End up tapping this one in for bogey here. So as you can see, variable length really not dealing it for me, and unfortunately the Wilsons aren't really maybe it's obviously me. Obviously they're great clubs, but compared to my Omars, there's just no denying the results. So as you can see, hit the drive wayward left. Recovery shot was pretty lucky, hit into the middle of the fairway. And then now my next shot actually goes onto the green. So hit a pretty decent 9-iron, but still short and left. And yeah, here's the putt for my birdie. And yeah, not a terrible result. Leaves me close enough where I don't have to sweat over a par. End up just tapping that one in, and we're heading to the last hole. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is that, one length is not for everyone, but at least for me, these Olimar clubs specifically, I know that I'm comfortable with them and I can score with them, and at least they're a lot easier to hit than these Wilson CB clubs. I think I was just, enamored by the beautiful CB irons that I thought I could play them, and it turns out maybe I can't. That being said, end up missing this par, lipped out there, and hit a bogey here. But yeah, if you listen to the podcast, you'll hear more about my decisions here. All right, as you can see, didn't strike the ball the best with the irons. Ultimately, after this round, I decided to switch back to my Olimar one-length irons. That being said, I'll have a podcast coming out going over my one-length journey, how I kind of got there, and pretty much describing all the pros and cons that I found personally with one length. So hope you guys enjoyed that one. Keep chasing, and we'll see you in the next one.